There we go. I think I've got it all figured out now. So yeah, I've actually got a chat bar over here now. That was the whole thing. And I'd really like to be able to change my camera angles because I've got a camera overhead here now that I'm using for a lot of videos, but I cannot figure out how to do that. So if anybody knows how to do that, please let me know and I'll try to do that. That way I can show things a little bit better than I can with this just forward facing camera. So yeah, but cool. I see we've got one person in. I have no idea who it is. It doesn't tell me who it is. So yeah, but if you're new to my lives, I am a fully certified gunsmith, fully licensed, all that fun stuff. If you have questions about gunsmithing, about firearms in general, things of that nature, please leave a comment and I will try my best to answer it. I don't know everything, but I know a lot. Now, also, just to kind of let everyone know, I am also going to try to get a friend of mine who's also a gunsmith out in the state of California to join in. So, yeah, yeah. But I guess what I can show you is kind of what I've been working on here as of late. This is a number four Mark One star, right? So there was a few changes between the standard Mark Ones and the Mark One stars, but not enough to change it to a Mark Two. I'm not getting into that. But basically, this customer states that he loves these actions, he loves these guns, but his eyes are kind of getting to the point in time to where he can't see the sights very well. And he's looked at the scope mounts that just mount right here over the sights and that kind of thing. He doesn't like yet. So what he's wanting is basically a T style mount. So he got a reproduction of the original mount and scope, and I'm working on installing it now. But this receiver is so daggum hard that I have ruined four, yeah, four drill bits. So I've actually got some carbide bits, solid carbide bits on their way. Hopefully they'll be here next week. Cool. I got two people in it now. Awesome. So y'all go ahead and, like I said, if you have any questions or anything like that, go ahead and ask them, that kind of thing. That way we can kind of get this rolling. I'm willing to answer my opinions about companies, tools, places to buy parts, yada, yada, yada. Right? So you think it, I can pretty much do it. And two people are now. I got so excited there for a minute. Yeah, yeah. I was also going to, on camera, install this 10 trigger in a Winchester Model 70, but I am out of roll pins. I thought I had some roll pins this size, but I don't. So, yeah. Dan, what school did I go to? I actually went to the American Gunsmithing Institute, right? It's a correspondence course. So yeah, that's where I went through. It's a lot of fun, and what made it great for me being kind of a online correspondence style of training is I was married with a full time job, right? So I worked on it on my schedule. Whereas I know friends of mine who have gone through like SDI, right? You're on their schedule. Okay. With a lot of AGI stuff, at least when I went through, it was on my schedule. So, if I had a weekend off and I honestly sat here and went, I just want to sit on the couch, watch TV, and that's it, I could. Or if it was just a really rough day at work, and I wanted to go out and have dinner with friends just to blow off steam, I could. I was not bound by, you know, oh, well, I have a paper that's due Friday or whatever. I wasn't bound by that. So that was a big thing for me. What I also really love about AGI is still to this day, and I've been graduated for 6 years. Yeah, no, I can still sit here and call up one of my instructors, Mr. Brooks, today and ask him questions, and he is more than happy to help me. Okay. Um, so yeah, that's who I went through. They're a wonderful company. Once again, it's the American Gunsmithing Institute, and I will type that in the comment right here below, um, below yours. And yeah, if you call and tell them, hey, I learned about you from a guy on YouTube, tell them who, the Kilted Gunsmith sent you. I don't get any kickbacks or anything like that. You understand? Um, the only thing they've given me in the past is another thing that you'll actually get when you become a student, and that is a subscription to Gunsmithing Club of America. They basically gave it to me because I didn't know about it when I was a student, right? No one really explained that to me. So it was a wealth of knowledge that I missed out on. Um, but they gave it to me just so I could kind of review it. And I put a video like earlier this month, last month, something like that, actually giving my review of GCA or the Gunsmithing Club of America as a whole. I like it. I dig it. So yeah, because you can get on there and ask questions, and you know that the other people that are answering are either going through gunsmithing school or are actual certified gunsmiths. They're not just some guy who learned in his daddy's tool shed on how to do stuff, right? So yeah. All right, so I have a bit of a machining background. Okay, what I mean by that is I was big into the ag program when I was in high school, and that's where I learned to weld. I learned to do everything. Um, and at the time, I did it because it was kind of fun, but I didn't really take it serious because I didn't think I'd actually ever use it. I was on the path of becoming an engineer, right? And life got in the way, things happened, right? And when I got into gunsmithing and I got a lathe, I've got a LeBlanc Regal lathe from 1955 sitting back here. And that's what I use to do chokes and thread barrels and things of that nature. But I knew what to do. It's just a matter of having to remember what to do. Now, granted, also what I did was um, I reached out to a local community college, right? To one of the professors who I know, right? Because I was actually a police officer out there for a few years towards the end of my law enforcement career. Um, and he kind of showed me a few other things that really brushed it up. I've got another friend of mine who's a master machinist, and he laughs at me all the time because he says I figure out the most difficult way to do a project. But I still get it done, plain and simple, because machining is not a big part of gunsmithing, but it's a big enough part that you need to know how to do it, right? Because just like right now, I'm not sure how early you were in, but I was going over this Lee Enfield #4 Mark One Star, right? And just to hit it real fast, I'm drilling and tapping holes to make it a reproduction T model because that customer, his eyesight is failing and he loves these actions. And yeah, but I got 3 of the holes drilled and about another half before I wore out all 4 of the drill bits that I had that were the correct size. So yeah, there's that. So I'm actually ordering solid carbide um, drill bits just for this because I don't have them in that size. I have them in, the common ones that you would use for common, 8x40 and stuff like that. So yeah. Now, if you don't have any type of machining background, I cannot stress enough of going to a community college and just learning it, right? Like that's it. Just learn machining. Just learn welding. And in particular with welding, TIG welding, okay? I have a little MIG machine, just a little cheap one I picked up from Harbor Freight, and it works, okay? But I don't use it very often. I mostly use a TIG, being honest. Now, I will use the MIG because it's a little bit faster and cheaper to set up and all that fun stuff if I'm making custom jigs or tooling for stuff. But the TIG is all I'll use on actual firearms. So, yeah, great question, though. Thank you for asking. Oh, yeah, there's 3 people watching now. I see that now. Yay! 3 people actually want to sit here and look at this ugly face and ask him stupid questions. Not you, Dan. Dan asked a really good question. But I know I see McIntyre there. He's going to ask a stupid question. I'm hoping he'll actually jump in here on live here soon with us. A good grinder will make you the welder that you're not. Okay. To an extent, yes. Okay. Um, Here, I'll take this action again and just kind of describe something that I've seen in the past. So, customer wanted iron sights put on the barrel, right? Because a lot of these new guns don't have iron sights, right? And I've actually got it's in kind of pieces right now because I was using it earlier. But this tool will save you so much of a headache, right? How do I send an invite, McIntyre? I don't know how to do that. You're supposed to be the one who knows how to do that. Like I don't know how to do that. But Dan, if you're going to get into gunsmithing, this is a product that is expensive as hell, but is worth every single penny. And it's made by Forster. So I'm going to spin it around here so you can see it. I know it's still backwards, but it gives you a good idea, right? Okay. But basically, what you do, and they sell an extension that I've got off of this, right? Because you'd have this sit in, the action goes over this, the barrels line up in here, right? It gets bolted down here, okay? And then you're able to move this exactly where you need it. It comes with a center punch, so you drop a center punch in, hammer it one good time, and each one of these bushings is for one's for drilling, the other is for tapping, and this is a drill for a different size, right? But the barrel's going to be clamped in here with these little. Let's see if I've got one sitting here. Hold on, relatively close. Yeah. So basically, this is a little clamp, right? It's a little horseshoe clamp that goes around here, and you can set these to where it's level, right? So the customer brought it in telling me that that's what he wanted done. Well, I've got the extension just for doing, front sights, okay? But what he didn't tell me is somebody had already attempted to do it, right? And rather than the holes be lined up like this, they were like this, okay? Now, granted, I'm exaggerating like hell, but you get the idea I'm saying. So I was honest with him. I told him, I was like, look, I'm going to have to fix this. So that means I'm going to have to TIG weld up those holes without transferring a lot of heat. And thank you, Panky. I knew there was going to be a stupid question. I just thought McIntyre was going to send it. But I had to TIG weld everything up to where the heat didn't transfer, and then re-drill and re-tap. Now, going to your comment about about grinding it, doing that, you don't like if I had it mounded up really bad, right, and it looked like garbage, and start grinding it down, and that's actually going to make a flat spot. And it might hurt, it might not, depending on how bad the flat spot is. So, with that, in my mind, in that application, I actually wound up going ahead and throwing it in the lathe and using the lathe to cut the profile all the way back the way it was. And talking about grinders, look, we all make fun of, excuse me, I've got a cough today. Yes, Panky, that's a different type. But people always want to sit here and talk down about having a Dremel in a gunsmithing shop. And for the most part, it's correct, but they do have their right place. Okay. What I prefer more than a Dremel is actually some type of flex shaft grinder, right? So that's what this is. It's connected to a foot pedal, right? And I can sit here and go 50 RPMs, right? All the way up to, I think, 23,000. And with this, I'm able to hold it just like a pen, and I'm able to get a lot more pinpoint areas, right? And yeah, so I like it. Uh, yes, McIntyre, I got it. Go to Studio, Net Studio. On the left-hand side, it says click Settings. I don't have a settings on the left-hand side. All I got is Stream, Webcam, and Manage, and all of those are sitting here saying that I can't do that right now. So yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the issue that we have right now. Let's see if I can do it this way. Settings. All right, McIntyre, go ahead and send me a text with your email because I'll need it. And I don't have it handy. I have that on my computer, and I'm already using my computer, so I can't look it up. So that's on you. Anyways, you know I don't technology. Now, Dan, if you're still with us here, which I hope you are, if you're going to get into gunsmithing, what I'm going to highly recommend to you at first is to go ahead and find a gunsmith in your area and see if you even like the job. Okay, because it sounds fun, it sounds great, yada yada yada. But yeah, it's not what everyone thinks it is. Everybody thinks you're going to get in cool guns all the time. You're going to go shoot and blah 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 blah. Have a grand old time all the time, and it's not that way. There's a lot of times that I am so frustrated that I am absolutely ready to just throw um, whatever I'm working on and wrap it around a tree, throw it across the field, whatever. And I'm also sometimes get really, really uh, frustrated with people. Hold on, I'm trying to sit here and send you an invite there, McIntyre. I'm trying to talk and do everything at the same time. Oh, it's saying I can't send it to you for some reason. Oh, that might be why, because I think you forgot the T in kilted there. But because what frustrates me about customers being honest is some of them have no real concept of time, right? Um, so yeah, editor, viewer limited. I don't know what to list you as, supported or non-supported. I don't know. Manager maybe? I don't know. It's saying it's pending your stuff. So yeah. EAA firearms. I haven't ever messed with them, to be perfectly honest. I've read good things. I've read bad things. So yeah, that's about as far as I can tell you on that. I don't really know. An old mechanic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I kind of, sort of have a butthole fee, but the problem is it's just being inconsiderate. That's the best way I could do it. Because like right now, turkey season opens up like next week here in the state of Mississippi. So for the past 2 weeks or so, I've had people call me up and go, "Hey, you know, hold on, goodness, this is takes so much to try to add somebody to come in as well." But they sit here and call me. They're like, "Hey, I need my scope drilled and tapped. How much does it cost?" And I go, "It's $45 a hole." "What do you mean per hole?" "I mean, how many holes am I drilling in your gun?" "Well, it's four." "Oh yeah, well that's $180." Well, how fast can I get it back?" "Well, I'll put you in line. I tell everybody 2 months, with most being done in 4 to 6 weeks, right?" And they sit here and go, "Well, that's going to take too long. For that price, I should be able to just sit and wait for it." And I went, "Oh yeah, you'll be sitting out in your truck for the next 4 to 6 weeks, max 2 months, right?" Uh, uh, uh. Well, that's not going to work for me. Okay, take it somewhere else. Plain and simple. Well, like I had a guy today sit here and want me to Cerakote for him, right? And he wanted it done by Monday. So yeah, yeah, that wasn't going to work. Panky, if you do that, okay, if you go ahead and put red Loctite or blue Loctite on your choke and mix them together, that does not make purple, okay? First off. Second off, if you do it, understand something. I am going to charge you out the nose for that amount of stupidity, okay? Plain and simple. But yeah, Kevin, it says I sent it, but I don't know any more than that. But yeah, people just yeah. And you also, depending on where you're at, Dan, I, um, I don't want to discourage you at all, okay, from getting into gunsmithing, but understand it is a pain in the butt, okay, because you have to fill out paperwork on any gun that is left overnight, okay. so on and so forth. So yeah, and then you have to keep everything in a logbook. You have to keep a copy of their driver's license with contact information on it. Um, yeah, and then depending on your state might require you to do more stuff. And what I recommend gunsmiths do, right, is also keep a logbook of what you did to the firearm. Okay, because I have had it happen multiple times. Right, guy sat here and brought in a gun, right, missing a front sight. I ordered and installed the front sight. He paid for it, picked it up. 2 or 3 weeks later, he's screaming at me because the gun doesn't function. I'm going, well, you didn't pay me to do, all of that. You paid for a front sight. I didn't do anything to the internals. Okay. So did it work when you dropped it off the first time? Well, yeah. I go, okay, well, bring it in and I'll take a look at it because a lot of times it's user error, right? A lot of times it's user error. Um, but he brought it in pieces. Okay. And I went, what is this? He goes, well, I tried to take it apart and fix it myself. And I'm sitting here looking at him going, dude, you're missing parts, right? You're missing springs and everything else. And well, that's what was in the gun. So if they're missing, that's your problem. And I went, no. Once again, I told you I didn't get into this. I mounted the front sight and was done. And he sat here and screamed and hollered and hollered and screamed. And finally, I told him to get out. Plain and simple. I was like, I'll fix it, but I'm going to charge you, right? Because this is beyond the scope of what you asked to be done. Okay. I had another gentleman with a Remington 742. Yeah. That complained that the shells wouldn't extract. Well, he didn't have an extractor in it. That could be a problem. Like, put in an extractor, cleaned everything up, went out and test fired it, put 3 rounds through it, pretty as you please, right? Swabbed the barrel, and that was about it. He came by and picked it up. Very next day, he's calling me going, the gun's jamming. You going, okay, I'm sorry to hear that. Bring it back up here and let me see, and bring the ammunition that you're using. Well, he comes back up here, and you could tell to where he took a screwdriver and was prying crap inside, and it was dripping with oil, right? And I was like, well, first off, this isn't warranted anymore, right? You've done damage to the firearm, right? And he started hauling around and blah, 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 blah. And finally, I was like, look, I'll take a look at it, okay? And I loaded up 2 more rounds of my ammunition, okay? And shot it. Well, tried to shoot it because he had sat here and bent the magazine so grossly that it wasn't even funny. And I dropped the mag, grabbed my mag, right, from my collection, and put it in. Gun ran flawlessly, right? I says, there's your problem. It's your magazine. You need to order a new mag. Where can I get a new one, right? All right, cousin, you have a good one, okay? I told him, I was like, look, you can buy some reproduction ones, yada, yada, yada. They're going to be 10 rounders, so on and so forth. I says, or you can try to find an original one, but original ones are going to cost you well over $100. Well, how much for the one in your hand? It's not for sale. Oh, come on now, everything's for sale. Now, understand, this man has already sat here and yelled at me, right, and talked about how I was cheating him and everything else. And now he's wanting me to sell him something out of my stock, right, that I'm not going to be able to replace. And I looked at him and I went, fine, $500 cash right now. I went, yeah, man, because I don't want to sell it. Okay. And he went home, called me again the next day, said the gun's still doing it. I said, well, did you change out the magazine? No. Well, why didn't you change out the magazine? I told you that it's a magazine problem. Well, I've just tried it without a mag in it. Okay. All right. He goes, and it still just ain't working. I'm like, okay. He brings it back up here. Once again, dripping in oil after I've told him to stop. Because what oil is he using? Machine oil. Yeah, good old fashioned, 3-in-1 machine oil. And I go, that's not what you use on a firearm, okay? And he goes on and on and on, and I look into that chamber, right? And it is sticky, okay? To where I just load in a empty cartridge and I cannot shuck it out at all. I have to use a ramrod to get it out. And I says, you filled that chamber full of crap. That chamber's going to have to be cleaned. Well, clean it. I went, cool. That'll be $55. No, hell no, it ain't. I've already paid you once. Yeah, but I told you how to fix it. You refused. You tore it up again. You're going to pay me. Yeah, he wasn't very happy either. So, but yeah, this is going along pretty well. What other questions do we have? Anything? Yeah, I'm trying the alternate email there, McIntyre, but it's saying that it has to be a Gmail, so I'm resending it again. All right, Dan, I'm not really sure I'm understanding your question. Okay, hold on. Are you sitting here asking, hey, what do you think about, you setting up a table at a gun show and trying to fix stuff on site? Is that what you're asking? Just to kind of get a little bit of experience? If that's what you're asking, let me know. If not, then try to explain a little bit more and I'll try to help you. Wait, you talk about buying broken guns and fixing those? Is that what you're asking? Because you know what? I'll cover both of them just in case. So starting off with buying broken guns, that's actually an excellent way to get some experience, but it's also a very expensive way. Okay. So, and I did it a few times. Okay. Um, and that really kind of helped me out in knowledge, but really who's going to gun shops, that kind of thing. Go, hey, do you have any broken guns? They're going to go, yeah, here, $100, right? And you'll go, fine. Understand right off the bat, right? If they are selling a broken gun, that means it costs too much for them to fix it and still make money, okay? Or at least break even. Um, so, with that being said, let's say you pick the gun up for $100, you have to put another $100 in it, but the gun's only worth $150. You just went down $50. Okay, granted, you got experience, but yeah. Um, Now, what I did, hold on. What I did was I have one, I've got a pretty good collection myself. And two, I've got friends of mine who collect things that are not in line with mine, right? Um, so what I did was, for instance, we were covering like Smith and Wesson revolvers, right? I went to a buddy of mine who I knew had a bunch of Smith and Wessons, and went, "Hey, let me borrow it." Right? I'm going to borrow it. I'm going to, tear it apart. I'm going to clean it. If there's any broken parts in there or really worn parts, I'll replace them. That cost you a dime, yada yada yada, and I'll give it back to you in a month, right? And yeah, that's the way it went. Okay, and it worked fairly well because now you're giving them back guns that either work or work better than they did, and that's going to start spreading word of mouth, right? Because honestly, when I first got into this, I told my wife, I was like, I just want to be part time. I'll still be in law enforcement. It'll kind of be on a weekend kind of things when I'm off and be kind of extra money. I was going through school, right? And granted, even before school, I was getting asked by, people that I knew to work on guns. And I'm like, guys, I'm not a gunsmith. I just kind of know how to work on some of this stuff. And then I started going through school and started learning a lot more. And I was getting phone calls from people I had no idea who the hell they were, no idea how they got my number, nothing. Right. And yeah, I sat here because my wife got mad at me because in one day, I want to say I got 15 phone calls, and I haven't gotten a business. I haven't, advertised. I haven't done nothing. I'm going through school, but 15 people called me wanting to do gunsmithing, and I talked to my wife about it, and yeah, we decided to go ahead and make this a full time thing, and we've been doing that for almost 4 years now. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun. It's a headache and a half, but not as much as law enforcement was. So yeah, but yeah, buying broken guns, just understand you're going to be upside down most of the time. Being honest, like I actually got one back here right now that I bought it. I bought it for parts, right? I bought it off of Gunbroker for parts. Okay, because they were sitting here saying that there were a lot of things wrong with it, yada, yada, yada. I got it in and looked at it and went, yeah, there's a crack in the stock, but that's an easy fix. They were saying it was going to be a full stock replacement when it wasn't, right? Nowhere near. Um, and then the metal parts, needed, the bluing was about gone, but everything was there. The gun functioned, right? Like I tore it apart, looked at it, excuse me, yada yada yada, and went, "There's nothing wrong with this gun." I loaded up a couple of 12 gauge shells, took it outside, shot fine. So now what I'm doing is refinishing the stock. When it gets a little bit warmer and I'm cranking up the bluing tanks, I'm going to re-blue it, right? And then I'm going to turn around and put it right back on Gunbroker to sell it, you know. And I'm also going to sit here and, film a little bit of it, not all of it, but a little bit of it for my social media and that kind of stuff. And yeah, yeah. So yes, it can be done, but I, with the amount of work and everything I'm going to be putting in it, I might make an extra $50, right? But this is a gun that deserved to be saved. You see what I'm saying? Because like I wanted to be able to sit here and install this on a Winchester Model 6 or Model 70 that I've got in, right? I'm out of roll pins, at least this size. I didn't know I was out of them, or I would have picked some up earlier, but I'm out of them. So that sucks. Because I would have shown you how to do this, because this is really stupid simple. That so many people pay me a lot of money to install when it's really freaking simple. All right, some more questions. No, 80% lowers are not really worth it unless you have, the a jig and a milling machine and all of that fun stuff. Okay. Um, and you plan on doing more than just one, right? So yeah, if you're just going to be doing one, it's really and truly not worth it. But then you get people like myself who like to build guns and build stupid things. Because Dan, I'm assuming that you're a new follower. I don't know if you follow me on the TikTok or anything like that. And McIntyre, it actually goes into that. But yeah, I had some parts laying around because this is something else that you can also do, right? Once you get your FFL and all that fun stuff, is you can actually go online and buy just boxes of parts. That's what I did. I also found quite a few people around who were, well, not quite a few, but a few gunsmiths relatively close to me that were going out of business, that were retiring, whatever, right? And I got a bunch of parts for them as well. But I got enough parts together that I'm still in the process of building this. This is a straight bolt handled Mauser style action in 45 ACP with end for threading, right, on a flash suppressor or other objects. I'm working on building a rig to where it takes standard 1911 mags, but this is what I've been working on really hard, right? Because this is a set trigger. Oops, already set, right? So when this thing is set, it drops it down to like some ridiculous low weight, right? Yeah, once I get everything set right, I've still got to bend a few pieces and I've got to weaken the spring a little bit because it gets tough to even set it. So yeah, that's a project that I'm working on. Another project I'm working on is a Setme Model C. Of course, I've been working on it for a year and a half, 2 years now. Of course, this Mauser 45 I've been working on for probably the same amount of time, to be 100% honest. I'm working on restoring a Carcano that I've had for over a year. Um, you know, what happens is like anybody, any other profession, right? Construction workers, mechanics, all of that fun stuff. You'll sit here and start on a project and then get tied up with work and then finally get some downtime to start working on the project again and then get tied up with work and, yada, yada, yada. So our projects seem to take 8 times longer than anything else. Now, Panky, you were sitting here asking about 1911 or Glock. What do I work on the most? Honestly, it's going to be Glock, and it's not really working as it is changing out parts. Because, Glock perfection, you have to change out parts. Most of the time, it's changing out triggers or doing trigger jobs to them, changing out sights, Cerakoting, things of that nature. On 1911s, it's usually something a little bit more functional that's wrong. Like one that I got in a while back, guy was like, "Yeah, it's my truck gun. It stays in my door of my truck, yada, yada, yada." I went out to shoot it, and it's not shooting, it's not firing. I go, "Okay." He says it's not even doing light primer strikes, so I'm thinking that the firing pin is broken somehow. I was like, okay. That wasn't the problem. He had to have spilt something at some point in time because all in the sear engagement, all around the firing pin and firing pin spring, had the consistency of honey. Not that fresh honey that you just, pick up. The one to where it got pushed behind, the microwave or something and it's set there for 6 months and it's all granulated. Yeah, yeah, that. And once I cleaned it and put it all back together, she ran just fine. But yeah, I told him, I was like, "You had to spill something on it." He goes, "No, no, I didn't spill anything." I go, "Well, somebody spilled something." "Well, I'm the only one that drives that truck." Okay, somehow you got something in there, right? Period. Right? So yeah, I cleaned it. You're welcome. It works. So on and so forth. So yeah. Anthony, thank you a lot. Like I said, if I just had more time to work on this thing, that would be great. But I don't. I don't. So yeah. All right. So the ultrasonic cleaner does really, really well on stuff like that. Um, the big thing that you have to sit here and remember is there needs to be an area to where that dirt and grime can come out, right? So hold on. So just take this for instance, right? If I just sit here and disassemble this, which this is a bunch of my old files that I don't use very much anymore, right? And I can sit here and pull all these files out as well to disassemble it, okay? And I set everything in there just like this, okay? The dirt and grime that's in here has no way to get out, okay? Now, granted, you could sit here and pour it out, but if you've ever poured anything out, you know that there's going to be stuff left in here, right? So what you have to do is you have to make sure that it's able to come apart and open it up as well. So like with that one that I was just talking about, I had to sit here and pull the firing pin spring, and all that fun stuff anyways. So he got charged a little bit more than a basic sonic cleaning. He got charged for a basically 1 hour of shop time. So it only cost him an extra $10. No, $20 because it was a pistol. But yeah, but that's one big thing to keep in mind. Because like there's also people out there that, hey, a Remington 870 shotgun needs to be sonic cleaned. I'm just going to leave the buttstock because it's synthetic on there. Don't do that. Because once again, there's going to be moisture in there that's going to stay in there, right? And then get all around that stock bolt and just make it so much harder for the next guy to get that stock off. Okay. And something else about sonic cleaning. When you pull it out, it is still wet, just like you getting out of a bathtub, right? So you have to be able to dry it all off, okay? But you're talking about little bitty nooks and crannies and things of that nature. So there's two things that I tell people to do that are interested in sonic cleaning. One, compressed air. You can, if you don't have an air compressor, right, you can go to Walmart and get those little can of air. That works great. If you have an air compressor, I tell people not over like 10 pounds, okay, is all the air pressure that you need, okay? And then get something that is able to displace some more water, right? Which in most cases is a type of oil, right? Most gun oils will do it. But you do that and then oil everything because you just stripped all the oil off. And yeah, you'll be good to go after that. Reassemble it, system check it, test fire it if you want to. I've had to do that a couple of times. It's kind of redundant, I guess you could say, because you just got done cleaning it and now you're going to go shoot it to dirty it up again. So you have to clean it again, but not to the same extent. So yeah. Awesome. Are you just going to have, Anthony, are you just going to have a gunsmith shop or a full on gun shop? Right? Waiting on the feds for your FFL. Awesome. I hope it doesn't happen like happened to me and getting my FFL the first time. Fun story about that. Hold on. So, for those of you that don't know, the ADF has to inspect your building, right? So after you pay them the money, fill out all the paperwork, all that fun stuff, they're going to contact you to set up a date to come out and check your building, right? And what it really is they coming out and going, yep, this is a building, right? And then they're going to go over everything with you, how to fill out 4473s, how to order more, how to fill out multiple handgun sales. Hey, you've got to have this put out. Then, since I do gunsmithing, I also have to know importation laws, pawnbroker laws, and everything else. And they tell you where to find all of this information, and you have to know it, right? Awesome. But what they'll also sit here and tell you is, okay, everything's done. Do you have any questions for me? Well, my question was, how long until I actually get my license? Because I was pretty much ready when they came by to inspect me in March of 19. Okay. The only thing I had left to do was just put gravel down my driveway. That is it. Okay. And I had it scheduled for the following week. And he was like, oh, well, it takes 30 days. I'm like, okay, awesome. Right. 30 days came and went. I called him. And he was like, hold on, I'll call you back. I was like, all right. A couple days later, he calls me back. And he's like, hey, I just talked to my supervisor about it. He says, give it another, 3-4 weeks and then get back to me. It's like, okay. All right. And then those weeks went by. Called him back. He goes, call my supervisor directly. So I called him and I explained everything. And he apologized and said that he's sending out an email right now to get it done. Okay. He said, give it another 2 or 3 weeks. I said, okay. Another 2 or 3 weeks passed by. I called the supervisor again. And I was like, sir, I still don't have it. And he apologized again and basically sat here and said that there are two ladies that do the entire Southeast. One deals with explosives, the other deals with standard FFLs, right? And he goes, I don't know what's up with her, but for the past year, she keeps coming up with excuses after excuses. He pretty much said that he wishes the woman was fired, but he can't fire her, right? So he sent out a very lengthy email and read it off to me, right? I will drive up there personally and get your license. It's like, all right. 2 days later, I get a phone call from him by which, just to let you know, when you answer the phone and they sit here and ask your name and you go, yes, they go, hi, this is Senior Special Agent such and such with the ATF. Pucker factor is yeah. Uh, but he called me and was like, hey, if you do not have it by July 4th, right, call me. I go, okay. And that was like a week away. I got it on like the 3rd, okay? And I called him back as soon as I got it. Hey, just let you know, sir, thank you very much. I got it, so on and so forth. And then we actually went through the whole process of, ribbon cutting and all that fun stuff. So we got started in early August. But yeah, there was a solid like several months that I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs. I don't have anything to work on in the shop because I can't have anything to work on in the shop, so on and so forth. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. But you're saying a gunsmith shop and general repair, awesome, right? One piece of advice I'd tell you is find out what the gun shops around you are charging for scope mounts, and then kind of sort of be a little sly with it unless you actually know that gun shop or are friends with them. But ask them what all they do for the scope. Do they level it? Do they lap the rings? Yada yada yada. And that's what I did. So everywhere around here, it's $15, right? But they don't lap the rings. They don't really level the scope to you. They don't really level the scope at all in some of them. But yeah, so I charge $15, but that includes lapping the rings. That includes setting it to you, right? Make sure that the distance is right and it's set up right. So yeah, yeah. That's awesome, right? Now, when you say they lost their Smith, I hope he just quit, retired, whatever, right? My recommendation to you is um, to go in and be not necessarily hat in hand, right? But don't be a butthole either, right? Because probably 35% of my business is gun shops themselves. So they bought a used gun that was broken, or some of them are also pawn shops, that kind of thing. Someone pawned it, they didn't pick it up, it's broken, I need to get fixed, right? And what I do is if a customer comes through my door, right, I'm $55 an hour in most cases. I'm going to say that again, in most cases, because I do give discounts, right? But for an FFL shop, it's $45, right? If I have a copy of their FFL. So that makes it to where I still make a little bit of money and they still make money. You see what I'm saying? And for either party, welcome come straight through my door or an FFL, you pay what I pay for parts. Plain and simple. I told you earlier about, or I was talking to Dan earlier about, buying boxes of parts, right? And just being able to put stuff together, yada, 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 right? Well, whenever I get those boxes in, I look and inspect everything. And then I figure out what my price is per piece, right? And then turn right around and mark it up just a little bit to cover taxes and things of that nature. And that's what I sell it for, right? Plain and simple. And some people get really upset at me. And it's mostly people that are trying to sell parts at a marked up rate. Because I'm going to make up numbers here, right? Because I don't remember right off the top of my head. Let's take this trigger, right, that I install on this Winchester, unfortunately, and it frustrates me. I hate being out. But let's say I bought this for 150 bucks, right, with shipping and everything, right? Most places would then take this and go, I'm going to mark it up another 20, 30%, and then I'm going to install it for you and charge you to install it. You see what I'm saying? So that's double dipping. I disagree with that. I don't order parts for customers just to put in themselves anymore. I don't. That's a headache. I don't recommend anybody doing that. Okay. So I tell people, you pay what I pay for parts, but you're paying me to install them. Okay. So like this customer, I had to Cerakote it, and he wanted that trigger and to install that trigger, right? So I had the Cerakote price plus my estimated time frame to install and test fire the weapon. Then I'm going to charge him, however much per round that I'm going to test fire. And yeah, and of course the part itself. So yeah, that's what I do. But that's just me. I have a lot of gunsmith friends that get mad because I do that. So yeah, because you're going to sit here and you're going to figure out usually within your first few months on what is your highest profit margin item, right? So like one of my highest profit margins is, hold on. Sorry, McIntyre. I'll try to figure it out and do better next time, okay? But one of my biggest profit margins is also a convenience charge, is kind of how I put it. And that's basic sonic cleanings, right? So you've got, like right now, I had a bunch of turkey hunters, right, that probably haven't cleaned their guns after last season, just put them in the closet, and yeah, now they want them cleaned. Oh, yeah, that's fine. I disassemble it, I put them in the sonic cleaner. Takes me less than an hour to get it back up and in their hands. So they sit right here and wait, right? But yeah, they sit right there and wait, and it's $45. That is one of my highest profit margins because really and truly, I'm nowhere near $45 in parts and that kind of thing. So it's a bit of a convenience that they're paying for. It's just like you can buy a 20-ounce Coca-Cola and it's going to cost you $1.50, $2, but you can go to the grocery store and buy a 2 liter for 2.50, right? But that's not really convenient. You see what I'm saying? And it's not going to be cold. So yeah, most people understand. Let me see if I can fix that, McIntyre. Hold on. Check it now and see what you can do. I really suck at this. But now, Anthony, I gotta ask, where did you go get some of your training? Somewhere like a brick and mortar, SDI, Modern Gunsmithing Institute, AGI? Where'd you go? Because you know I'm biased. I still really wish I could switch my camera angles over because I've got one that's over the top and I can kind of show things a little bit. Because if I could actually get it to where I could swap from this camera angle to the one overhead, I could actually show more stuff. So yeah. Cute. I got 6 people watching. Hip hip hooray. All right, so I'm going to sit here and ask the 6 people that are in the videos. What is some stuff that you want to see on my YouTube channel? So this is kind of what I've got. My idea is kind of course, I've got this number 4 Mark One that I'm recording, me working on, and that kind of thing. Um, Hello, gunsmithing Greece. That is awesome, man. I am actually really kind of curious about that. I'll hold on. Let me finish what I was sitting here saying, then I'll ask my question. Okay. But I'm gonna try. I'm trying to figure out how to do it right now, just in my head. But here soon, we're going to be out of our rainy season in the Mississippi, and it'll be warm enough that I could actually start bluing. So I'm going to show some bluing content as well. I know people have asked for machining content, but I just don't really have a way to set that up, and I'm not much of a machinist. I can do the work, you see what I'm saying? But when it actually comes to um, actually explaining and that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah. And I don't feel like having, professional machinists sit here and get on and start screaming and hollering at me about how I did it wrong when I'm going, no, it's right. There's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Mm. Well, I thank you, Jeffrey, on that one. Now, I cannot pronounce your name there, the gunsmith from Greece, but I am interested in the gun culture in other countries. So I'm going to ask some questions and you just kind of let me know. One, how is like gun ownership done there? Do you have to have, permits? Do you have to have a reason? That kind of thing. And then if you do, how difficult is it? That'll be the first question that I ask. because that it's fascinating to me. It really and truly is, because there's so many people in this country who believe that we as Americans are the only one that have guns. No, there's guns all over the world. There's just different regulations and that kind of thing, and yada yada yada. And McIntyre, did you get anything? I think I changed it over to where it's right. I can put I can put him in a timeout. That's funny. I'm still trying to get used to this live thing, man. Really and truly. So yeah. Anybody have anything else? Anything at all? Oh, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm actually going to be going to Augusta, Georgia here in a few months. I like going to Georgia. It's sometimes fun. But yeah, we've got some family um in Augusta, and we're going to go visit them here in a few months. I can't remember exactly when because I don't make those plans. My wife does, and just kind of tell me, and then we go. I just sit here and notify the ATF that I'm going to be out of the shop. That way, if they show up to do a random inspection, because that's going to happen, right? And it's really and truly up to your ATF agent on how often that you are, inspected. But since it's just me in the shop, I don't have any other responsible persons on the FFL. As just a courtesy, I always email them when I'm going to be out of town. Once again, I don't have to, but it's just a courtesy. Oh, awesome. Now, Grizzly is sometimes some good stuff, right? Sometimes. Um, their scratch and dent sale, I know they also advertise that on their website, that kind of thing. I have honestly been looking at their gunsmith lathe because, granted, I love this big LeBlanc that I have, but there's a lot of restrictions to it on what I can actually do because back in '55, it's all they could do on that piece of machinery. Well, technology's evolved to where you can do more, but I'm not sold on it yet. I've got another buddy of mine up in North Dakota that's a gunsmith, and he's got one that's full CNC, right? And I'd have to learn CNC, but like he was sitting here telling me, fully disassemble a bolt action rifle, throw it into the lathe, push start, and let it cut the muzzle threads and reassemble it in under an hour. Under an hour, that's done. So that's a big selling point for me. So yeah, like I said, I don't know. Do I mess with knives? Yes and no. Of course, I have several knives because they're tools, right? So you don't have one tool to do everything. I am actually, well, I haven't paid my dues in quite a while, but for a long time, I was actually a certified blacksmith. It's something that I got into when I was a teenager, and I still use a lot of the skills in gunsmithing, to make certain parts for antiques, that kind of thing. That way it looks original, but it has my markings on it. I've made knives, that kind of thing. What I get a lot in right now is people wanting their knives Cerakoted. Now, Anthony, what I'm going to sit here and tell you is if you are not certified in Cerakote, that would be something to look at because it's popular since people have really gotten out there, or excuse me, since people have gotten the knowledge that I am factory certified in Cerakote. I'm not necessarily covered up in it. You see what I'm saying? But it's enough to kind of keep me a little bit busy, right? So yeah, that's something else. Yeah, I'm not driving all the way to Tacoma. It's not happening. Yeah, and Dan talking about the Ghost Gunner stuff. What I've looked at is that's really limited to what you can do, right? Because granted, it's a CNC milling machine, but it's for like ARs and Glock lowers. You see what I'm saying? That's really limiting. It's not like I could sit here and put in the code and programming um, to build the hammer for a handy rifle, right? And it would cut it out. At least by my research, I could be wrong, but my research, it's really limited on what you could do. Because once I get a because I'm going to get a CNC milling machine. That's going to happen. Okay, plain and simple. But the way that I want it is I'm going to have it set up for Glock slide cuts, right? To where I pretty much clamp the Glock slide in, push start, walk away, right? 1911, same way. And then I can sit here and write the code for, whatever part I need, push start and let it cut it, you know. The machine I'm looking at is about $30,000. So yeah, but I'm still looking, that kind of thing. Sometimes I can find a deal. Uh, yeah, AGI does have a course on that, and that's probably what I'll go through because I think it covers CNC. Because when I first started, it didn't. You see what I'm saying? So they've updated a lot of stuff since I graduated. Um, yeah, but once again, it's slide cuts for a handful of guns, right? So I think it's got Smith and Wesson, it's got Glock, it's got 1911. Cool, wonderful. So are you going to advertise that that's all you do? What happens if a guy comes in with an H&K? What happens if a guy comes in with a Canic? You see what I'm saying? Or a guy that sits here and has a high point, right? What are you going to do then? You see what I'm saying? I mean, you're going to turn them away? That's leaving money on the table. That's my thing. I don't like leaving money on the table. But then again, I don't like having direct competition because I'm ruthless when it comes to business. Honestly, I am ruthless. Um, so much so that there was a guy that was an uncertified um, gunsmith that opened up like 10 miles from me, right? And I found out about him. And then I found out his prices. Uh, all right, I will. Here, let me type it out. That way, anybody can email me. This is the company email. right? Everyone just got to keep that email address. That is the company's email, and I check it about once a week, to be honest. But yeah, he set up about 10 miles away from me, and I found out his prices because what he did was contact me before he got all his licensing and was asking me a bunch of questions and my prices, and then he decided to cut it to like 10% under, right? So it made his prices look better, right? But he was putting out some kind of shoddy work, right? Which, hey, whatever. Now, with shoddy work, though, the longer that they're in business, their work might get better and their prices might get better and that kind of thing. So what I did, because I am absolutely ruthless, is I figured out how much money I needed every single month to pay the lights, to pay the taxes, to pay insurance, pay all that, except don't pay me. And then I sat here and looked at, roughly how many customers am I getting. There for about a solid 2 months, my hourly rate went from $55 down to $10 an hour. Yeah, yeah. And in that 2 months, that other guy went out of business because I was still putting out work better than he is for an extremely good price, right? And yeah, as soon as he went out of business, my prices went right back the way they were. Not a problem, guys. I mean, honestly, not a problem. What's a Stream Deck? I don't know what that is. Is that software or is that hardware? Because if it's hardware and I can just kind of plug and play, that'd be cool. If it's software, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. But yeah, honestly, anybody, right? If you have a question, um, like just say for instance, because I had one gunsmith actually do this as well. I collect a lot of para ordnance stuff. All right, I'll take a look at it there, Dan. Thank you very much. And he was having some problems with a para ordnance that came in his shop, and he couldn't really find schematics for it and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I kind of helped him the best that I could through emails and that kind of thing. So yeah, that, and I'm also a big fan of gunsmiths helping gunsmiths. So once again, let's say, like, hold on, I'll actually grab something. Right, hold on, just give me a minute. Oh, my knees are starting to hurt. It's one bad thing about the rain and me getting old. All right, so these are two part bins, right? That I just have right around the corner with all of my parts. Let's say that you're working on a Glenfield or Marlin Model 60 and you need parts. This is a complete trigger group feeding, right? I've got a bunch of the springs. I've got the side plates because these things can bend and wear out. I've got bolts, right? The old style and some of the new style. You see what I'm saying? Trigger guards. I've got currently well over 10,000 parts. Okay. And once again, I don't really sell directly to the public, but if you're working on one and you can't get parts, you can't find it, whatever, reach out to me. I might have them, right? Just send me an email and I might have it. And if so, I'll give you the price with shipping. I ship everything out in a flat rate box. All right, McIntyre, have a good one. But yeah, like I've got stocks. I've got God, like honestly, I have some stuff. Let me see if I can even get this out. Here we go. Like this is just sitting there. It's a rusted out, you know, barrel. I doubt the lighting. I mean, you can't shoot it. You see what I'm saying? But I've just got this hanging around. Now, why do I have this hanging around? Because I needed to use it as a cheater bar one day, and I just haven't put it up. I've just got so much stuff. Because once again, I buy those box of parts. There was a gunsmith that was retiring, and I bought out all of his parts. There was another one that just kind of wanted to downsize to where all he wanted to work on was a handful of guns and semi-retire. So I bought all of them, you know, so on and so forth. I'm on Gunbroker and eBay and that kind of thing on a regular basis. You understand? Um, just looking up stuff because sometimes I find really good deals. Like I'm still kind of kicking myself over one that I saw. This would have been October of last year, I think. But I was just scrolling through gunsmith specials on Gunbroker, and they had it listed as a what was it? Belgian made 12 gauge, and that's it. And they said in the description, don't know the make, don't know the model, nothing like that. It was an A5. It was a Browning A5. She was worse for wear, right? But I sat here and kind of watched it, and then I got busy at work and everything, and I missed it. And it sold for like I want to say like 150 to $200, right? And really and truly, all the parts that were in it were good parts. Just looking at them online, and the stocks were not split. Which, if you know the Browning A5s, the Remington Model 11s, the so on and so forth, right? You know that the four ends going to crack. Period. Right? Um, these didn't at all, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, it just needed good cleaning, refinishing, that kind of thing. $200. That's what it sold for. 150, 200. Still kick myself about that. All right, something's going on. In the chat, the guy that said he's from Egypt, or not Egypt, but Greece, so I'm saying all that is retracted. And now I'm not able to pull up his name. That's weird. Anyways, is there any other questions that y'all have? Anything like that? So on and so forth. Now, something I will say about, or asking me about parts. Understand, I only sell to FFL holders. Period. And those FFL holders do not contact me about restricted parts because I will not only delete that email, I will block you from emailing me ever again. Right? Because not today, Mr. ATF. Just like I laugh sometimes because you get on eBay and they know I look up gun parts, and on a regular basis it'll pop up an ad for that fuel filters. Not today, ATF. Not today. Anyways, I've been running about an hour and a half now. Actually, a little bit longer than that because it took me 3 times to actually get up and running. Because at first I accidentally clicked that, made for kids, and then I couldn't do anything. There was no comment section, there was no nothing. I was like, okay. Ended that one, fixed it, and tried to start a second one. And yeah, I think my computer kind of sort of crashed. And then this is the third one, I think. So yeah. Yeah, yeah. I saw that the other day, the handlebar grips. I I don't know if they tagged it that way to get around some of Amazon's things. You know what I mean? Right? Or what? But yeah, that's kind of funny. Now, I also saw something else shortly after that. I think I saw it on an ad on TikTok, but basically, it's an attachment to your drill, right? That you put one of those on. That way, you can lay into it a little bit easier. I thought that was actually pretty smart. It's one of those things that is so smart, so simple. Why didn't I think of it? Alrighty. Does anybody have anything else? Anything at all? I'm going to take a quick picture. That way I can see that hardware that you were sitting here talking about there, Dan. Dan the man. No, you probably get sick of that. Oh, book them down. Are you a cop? I would kind of understand that a little bit more. Now, Dan or Anthony, are either one of you looking at Cerakoting? Because I highly recommend it. I really and truly do. Um, but if you're going to do it, I recommend you going ahead and getting factory certified in it. And no, you no longer have to go all the way to Oregon to their main office to become certified, factory certified applicator. All right. Anthony, you said you're in Georgia, right? It would probably be closer for you to go exactly where I went, right? Which was Weapons Works LLC in Burlington, North Carolina. Okay. I mean, you could pretty much just drive there, get a hotel room, that kind of thing, right? Um, those are some wonderful people, and they do a lot. Like 90% of their business is Cerakoting. Okay. Um, and in their pamphlet, which I used to have one, but I've lost it, they sat here and talked about any type of gunsmithing or machining they send over to this other guy to get done, right? But yeah, they're large enough that when I was there, they had just gotten a contract with Daniel Defense to do a third of their firearms. So a third of the gun, the AR-15s that Daniel Defense was putting out, was Cerakoted by Weapons Works. Okay. Um, Zach, the owner, is a great guy, right? He's very friendly, very knowledgeable. Um, he has other people like I want to say just the people that I saw. He probably had 10 employees, and that is not including the gun shop that he started either. Right? That's just on the Cerakote side. So yeah, yeah. Um, but like I said, if you're interested in it, really and truly look at getting factory certified. Actually, contact the people at Cerakote and get it done. Now, I'm also a bit of a snob when it comes to some of the equipment that you're going to use. I like the Atwater guns. They are expensive. They're about 300 bucks a piece, right? And you'll see a lot of people is using like the Harbor Freight guns and that kind of thing. Don't. Okay, just go ahead, buy once, cry once. That's my philosophy, right? Yeah, I mean, Daniel Fence is not far from you. Now, Dan, what I'm going to ask you is, are you looking at doing any type of refinishing? Are you looking at doing bluings? Are you looking at doing, you know, don't do Duracoat. For the love of God, don't do Duracoat. But like Brownells has the gun coat, I think is what it is. I know several gunsmiths that have gone to it, but I don't because, in my opinion, it doesn't work as well as Cerakote. In my opinion, it doesn't work as well as Cerakote. So yeah. But also, Anthony, once you become factory certified, you do get discounts on a lot of stuff on Cerakote.com. So a lot of the equipment and things of that nature, right? One of the best things that I do for advertising is upon you graduating, you'll get a shirt, a black shirt that says Cerakote across it, right? Wear it, okay? Just going to the supermarket, going to a ball game, going out to eat, going to a park, whatever, wear it, right? Because people are going to stop you, right, and go, "Hey, do you know anyone that applies Cerakote?" Well, yes, yes, I do. I actually do, and I'm factory certified in it. And then I usually hand them a card, and they're going to sit here and start asking about prices and that kind of stuff, and tell them, you know, the way I've got my prices set up is very simple. Like for instance, let's just take semi-automatic pistols, right? One color is $170, right? Each extra color that you add to it is $25. And that's how I do it. Some want to charge disassembly, reassembly fees. Others want to charge more if it's a difficult pattern and that kind of thing. I don't, because you're not going to get a discount on a simple pattern, right? So that's kind of my thing. Okay. Well, Dan, not to get on to you or anything, but coatings are gunsmithing. Okay. So like even if you get into bluing, which you did you say you were going through AGI? I can't remember. I guess I could look it up, but I don't think AGI has a bluing course. But bluing is something that's becoming a dying art. It really and truly is. There are more and more gunsmiths that don't do it. The reason they don't is either A, they don't have the room for it, or B, they don't have, they can't due to needing permits and that kind of crap from their local or state government. Uh, Granted, in Mississippi, I don't run into that. So, hey, but I do work well with the local the I'm sorry, the local garbage place, the waste facility or whatever, to where every year they do a hazardous waste day, and like it's usually in April, and that's where I take my 5 gallon buckets full of spent salts to, because it doesn't they don't charge me a thing. They just say, hey, come drop it off. Cool, great, wonderful, awesome, thank you, bye bye. Right? So that saves me a good amount of money. Um, yeah, last time I talked with Miss Sue at AGI, they were talking about doing a Cerakote course. Now, here's my thing on the course. Okay, if I'm going to say that again, if it was their course was anything like the courses I went through for everything else, I think it'll give really good information that's going to be in here. But over half of my time at Weapons Works was going over technique. So they sat here and told you, if this was the part, how to come up and down and all that fun stuff. And, you got to hold it like this. This is how you spray. And then it went, okay, well, now this is one that's a little bit thicker. This one's a little bit thinner. Okay, now let me show you how to adjust, the spread to where you've got, a 2 inch spread all the way down to a 1/4 inch dot, things of that nature. Now I don't know how that's going to be with their course, and I also don't know if Cerakote recognizes it, if that makes sense. Because if they recognize it, then great. You get all the technical support. You'll get the profile as well on Cerakote.com. Because I get a fair amount of business from it, right? Which I can pull it up on my phone here and kind of show it to you. Ignore the shop phone because it is dirty and everything else, and I just haven't felt like cleaning it. Let me log in. But basically, what's great about it is someone can go, just Google Cerakote applicator, right? Find their page, and with you just type in either a city or a zip code, and it starts pulling up different Cerakoters in that area, right? Excuse me. But this is my page on Cerakote, right? And then I'm able to actually put out stuff, and then I get reviews on it, right? Plain and simple. Like that. That one was one of my favorite ones to do, right? This one was a lot of fun. But you can click on it, and like I use it as a resource as well, because people will sit here and go, man, I really like this camo pattern, but I want different colors. Okay, well, I'm able to look at their pattern and go, okay, it's kind of like this type of camouflage. Awesome. And kind of go from there and then do colors. Or I've also had one sit here and go, I want one just like this. Well, great. I'm able to go, click on that picture, scroll down, and it will tell you exactly what colors were used. Okay. And yeah, you can kind of go from there on it. So yeah, that gets to be a lot of fun with that. And like I said, if AGI's is, if Cerakote's going to recognize AGI's course, awesome, right? Absolutely awesome. But if they don't, me personally, right, wouldn't see the value in it. Okay, just not. Okay. Ray, so you used to have to only go to Oregon, but they've opened up some new places. Like I was sitting here talking about going to Weapons Works in Burlington, North Carolina. They've also got one, I think it's in San Antonio, Texas. And I want to say they've got one in the Midwest, like in Michigan or something like that. So you're not restricted on just going to Oregon anymore. Now, granted, if you're out in, Idaho, Arizona, California, that kind of thing, Oregon might be closer for you. But like me, I'm out in Mississippi, and that was going to be a long flight, right? So I was ecstatic when I found out that, yeah, we could do um, somewhere else. In fact, I was on the waiting list to go to Oregon, right? And I was scheduled to go in like October of last year, right? Well, in about February or March of last year, I got an email that said, "Hey, we've set up these two new locations, right? San Antonio and Burlington, North Carolina. If you're interested, we can get you in sooner, right? With all of this." I was like, heck yeah. And they gave me dates. So like the one in Burlington, which is the one I went to, was the end of April last year. And I think the one in San Antonio was going to push till June. Well, I did all my research, hey, how much the flight's going to cost? Hey, how much is it going to cost for a hotel room? Yada, 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 so on and so forth. And they were fairly the same. So I said, well, hell, if they're the same, then I'm going to go with the one sooner. And I wound up going to Burlington, North Carolina to Weapons Works. So, yeah, yeah, that was kind of the story of that. Like I said, great people out there, really nice people. Um, and something else I like by being factory certified is because I've been at it both sides, right? So before I was factory certified, Cerakote wanted me to um, go ahead and start applying, right? They're like, look, we'll give you an instruction manual, we'll give you all of this, and we've got wonderful support, right? And the problem that I was kind of running into with support was I would call, I'd push the number for support, and it never failed. I'd have to leave a voicemail and then wait for a call back. And one project I was working on, it was my own, but I was very frustrated, was come to find out my own fault and a little bit of their fault. So when I got my Atwater gun kit, right, it has everything in there. It's got, cleaning brushes, all that fun stuff, everything you need. But also in there is a small tube of oil. And it sits here and talks about, excuse me, every day before you start using it to put 2 drops of oil into it. So that's what I did. And I was getting horrible fish eyes, right? And I couldn't figure it out. So I called them, left them a voicemail, and kept playing with it, kept playing with it. Reached out to some other people on TikTok that I knew that Cerakoted, that kind of sort of tried to help me. They kept saying that it's a contamination, it's a contamination, it's a contamination. So it was a lot of strip what I just did off, degrease it in acetone, bake it, pull it out. Everything looks good. Spray it. Crap, I've got contamination, so on and so forth. Yeah, come to find out, we finally, they called me back and I ran them through. I go, this is what I do every day. When I want a Cerakote, this is what I do. I cut on my lights, cut on my air compressor, go ahead and open up the exhaust fan, cut the exhaust fan on, make sure that the gun is clean and lubricated, and I hook it up and I mix up the Cerakote. And they go, stop, 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 stop. What do you mean lubricated? I went, oh, the little lubricant that's in there, right? You put 2 drops. They went, what lubricant? And so I actually emailed the guy a picture. He's like, yeah, don't use that. That's your problem. Stop using that. But since I had it hung up and everything, the oil had actually worked down through the line. So I actually had to run acetone through all of my lines for my air compressor. That was fun, but I haven't had that since. Now that I'm a certified applicator, I can still call up there and ask for advice and that kind of thing. And I'd say about 80, 90% of the time, I'll actually talk to someone, right? Right out the gate, I talk to someone. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, COVID was a big thing. I kept trying to, because I signed up for it in like December of 19. And they were like, well, it's going to be June of 2020 before they could get to me. Okay. Then COVID hit and I got delayed. And I kept getting, kept up asking on updates, all that fun stuff. And they're like, well, once regulations really started to narrow down, they're like, well, we're expanding our facility so we can teach more people, yada, yada, yada. And we're waiting on the contractors to get done with that. We'll let you know. Then they finally came out and was like, hey, it's going to be October. When I got the email saying that it was going to be October of last year, I probably got it in September of 21. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, it was a bit of a headache. But now that they've opened up all these new facilities to do that, it's great. And also, what's really cool, at least when I went through, you get the vector files. So Cerakote sends you basically a file, right, that you download, and it has hundreds of vector files, absolutely hundreds of them. So yeah, that was really cool to go ahead and start out on everything. So yeah, and yeah, Anthony, I think Miss Sue is the only student advisor. I could be wrong, but I've had a lot of people sit here and say, "Yeah, Miss Sue is my advisor too." I think she's pretty much it for everybody. Because honestly, most people when they graduate will never contact them ever again. I, on the other hand, am not that way. Because honestly, when I started doing videos and talking about AGI, especially on TikTok, um, I can't remember if it was on a YouTube live or TikTok live, but I actually had a guy sit here and chime in going, I talked to AGI yesterday and told them about you and they're really interested in talking to you. I was like, okay. So I called up Miss Sue and of course I talk to her on a regular basis, so on and so forth. And I was like, yeah, I'm on TikTok and a lot of social media and I was on live and a guy said that he reached out and, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, yeah, the Kilted Gunsmith. And she goes, oh my God, yes, we've been looking for you. We YouTubed it, but there was somebody else that had that name. And it wasn't any of our students, and so on and so forth. But yes, we've been really. I go, okay, calm down. What's the deal? Um, so yeah, that's kind of how it got to. Let's review GCA. So they gave me a partial membership to it. Um, and she sat here and also talked about me possibly doing some collaboration videos, which I'm not interested in. And I told her that. I says, because I'm not a master gunsmith. Okay. I am not a master. Right. I says, in a few years, once I become a master, that's something that we can discuss and talk about. Right. I says, but I am not a master and I am not good enough at this to teach someone else how to do it and explain to them why. I'm just not, right? And she completely understood and that kind of thing, so on and so forth. Yeah. All right, we're coming up close on the 2 hour mark. Does anybody have anything else? Anything else they want to sit here and talk about, or have me talk about? Because that's pretty much how my lives go. I like to talk. I can't help that. And that's something I'm going to sit here and recommend to anybody that's getting into gunsmithing, right? Whether you have a gunsmith shop or you're getting into it, learn to talk to people, right? Because I cannot tell you how many times I've had customers come in and ask simple questions, right? Or they were simple fixes that I didn't charge them for, but they were more excited about me sitting down and talking with them and helping them out with other stuff, right, than anything else. For instance, two instances. One was yesterday. Had an older gentleman. He just turned 90 years old, right? The big 9-0. Okay. And he brought in a Remington 1187, I think is what it was, in 410. Talk about how he couldn't load the shells into the magazine tube. And I asked him, I was like, well, when's the last time that you shot it? Well, it's been a few years, and I wanted to go out and try to shoot some skeet and that kind of thing with it because the guys at the club said you can't shoot skeet with a 410. So I wanted to prove the young whippersnappers wrong. I love that. He goes, and I could load one in the chamber, but once I get one loaded in the chamber, I can't load any in the magazine tube. Well, it kind of broke my heart a little bit, but the problem was he no longer had the strength in his hands to load it, get the rim around the shell latches, right? The feed latches, right? We tried several different techniques, even using kind of a ramrod to hold like this, so almost like competition shooters, 3-gun shooters will load their shotguns, except in his hand, rather than having a second shell, it was just a wooden dowel. He just didn't have the strength to do it. But we got done with that. He asked me how much I owed him, or he owed me, and I was like, nothing. You don't owe me anything. I didn't do anything. Yeah, but I took up some of your time. I says, I'm not worried about it. He goes, well, look, while I got you, I've got a revolver, and he starts talking about it. I was like, oh, yes, sir, that's not a problem. It's probably either this, or this. I'll take a look at it. I'll fix it. I'm 55 an hour plus parts, right? Whatever parts cost. And he took probably 10 of my cards because he was overly excited that I was willing to sit here and actually talk. He said, gunsmiths in the past, it's what the hell you want. Okay, it'll be done when it gets done. Bye. Oh, yeah, I don't like that. And something else that I offer that I encourage other gunsmiths to do is have this free service. All right. Someone goes out and buys a firearm, pistol, rifle, shotgun, muzzle loader, don't care. Okay. If they don't know how to clean it, teach them. Teach them how to field strip. Teach them how to, scrub the barrels, what chemicals to use, what chemicals not to use, so on and so forth. Because if you do that, that'll come back to you tenfold. Okay? In most cases, it does not take 20 or 30 minutes out of your day. Now, you are going to get ones like a nice lady that I had. Okay? Understand, I'm out in the sticks. Okay? And my driveway is a gravel driveway with potholes purposely put in because people think in their jacked up trucks that they could drive 50 miles an hour down my driveway. And that frustrates me. Okay. But one day I noticed this brand spanking new, freshly detailed Mercedes Benz come driving down. And I'm going, they must be lost. Old woman gets out and she is to the nines, right? Hair, makeup, clothes, everything, right? Just designer handbags, everything. And I meet her at the door and I go, yes, ma'am, can I help you? because I'm not used to, people like that coming here. I'm used to, Bill Tom and Tom Bill in their pickup truck with a dog in the back, that kind of thing. And she goes, I was told that you might be able to help me. I said, okay, come on in. Let's have a seat. She sat down. She said, my husband passed away about 4 years ago, and he used to sit here and carry this pistol. She reaches in the bag and points it at me, right? Just like this to hand it to me. Finger's not on the trigger, but it's still scary. So I grab it from her. I go, yes, ma'am. She goes, he carried it and he cleaned it. He shot it. He took care of it. Everything else, he's been dead and gone. And with all the craziness going out in this world, I want to know how to do all that just in case, because I don't want to take somebody's life, but by God, I don't want to lose mine neither. Yes, ma'am. It was a Smith & Wesson revolver. Okay. Took me 3 hours to teach her. You push the latch here, the cylinder rolls out. This is how you eject your rounds. Okay. This is how you load the rounds. Then you close it, right? And then you can either squeeze the hammer or squeeze the trigger, or you can cock the hammer and then squeeze the trigger, right? Then to clean it, you're going to make sure it's unloaded. And then you're going to swab the barrel, swab the cylinders, put a drop of oil here, here, and reload it and ready to go. 3 hours, okay? But not 2 weeks later, I had some more women come in, right, who were friends to that old woman. And they have spent quite a bit of money with me. I'll put it that way. Oh, yeah, customers are the same all the way around. I really and truly believe that. Like, I get told by people outside of the industry I need to write a book, right? The Adventures of the Gunsmith, right? And I sit here and laugh and go, no. I go, all gunsmith customers are the same and have been the same for years, and I can prove it. You want me to prove it? What the hell, I'll prove it. Because there was a wonderful collection of books that were put out about years ago by Brownells called Gunsmith Kings. Now, those of you who are getting into gunsmithing, you need to find you a copy of all 4 books. And let me find the one that I'm looking for. Yep, here it is. Very first one. I'm going to cover up what it says down here below. But you see, customer comes in, look at that shotgun, right? That looks horrible, okay? Tied up with string, looking at the gunsmith, right? Now, why is the gunsmith looking so frazzled? Because the shotgun, double barrel, once again tied up with string, buttstock's broken in half. And the customer's saying, of course I want it fixed today. If I wanted it fixed tomorrow, I brought it tomorrow. No truer words and no truer cartoons have ever been put out. Okay? Now, talking about these, I feel like these books are the best for every gunsmith around. Okay? You can pick these books up. I picked this one used off of Amazon. I think I paid $20 for it. Okay? You can find good prices. Check eBay, check Gunbroker, all of them, right? You can find these for good prices. But now I have something marked here. And I don't know why it's marked. So I'm going to unmark it. But they've got all kinds of information in here. So I'm trying to find, because they've also got drawings, right? Right? So what this is basically fixing chokes for fixed chokes, but the same idea, which I think there's actually a template that I went off of in one of these books. It might be this one, it might be another one, of a shotgun dent remover. Where is mine? There it is. Now, this is something that I had a friend of mine who's a master machinist actually do up for me because I did not have the capabilities at the time. But basically, you would slide it in, and I've kind of bent this one. We're not going to go there, right? But it would slide in, and these would be flush and flat, right? And you set your depth with this collar here, right? You slide it in, and then you sit here and you turn this handle, right? And what happens is, which this one I've got to clean up before I use it again, but what happens is it pulls this screw this way and sets up the wedges like so, so you can hammer out the dent that's in the shotgun, right? So, yeah. But since I kind of bent this one, I haven't unbent it yet. So I need to do that before I do anything else. Just put that on the list of all the other projects I have to do. But doing something like that, you know, the last one I did, because it had multiple, I think I charged the guy $175 to pull like or hammer out about 5-10 dents. Probably didn't take me an hour. You see what I'm saying? But there was a lot of other stuff in there as well. Sorry, that's the wife. So, like, whenever you hammer out dents, or if you're going to be impacting glued steel at all, right, which I need to polish these. I haven't polished them since the week's work, right? Don't use steel ones. Use brass ones, right? And I like having double-sided because this side I use for punches. This side I actually use for hitting metal, right? The actual firearm itself. And basically, you got that in, and you're just going to work it around, work it around, work it around. Have a good one, Anthony, until the dent comes out. But this is going to transfer brass over to the shotgun barrels that you then have to sit here and clean off and all that fun stuff. And yeah, so it's time consuming, but it's not really difficult if you have the proper tooling. Also, in one of these books, once again, I don't remember which one because there's 4 of them. I've read all of them. There are plans for a 22 chamber iron, and I don't know where I put mine. Now, basically, what a chamber iron is, which Ray, you probably know this, but I don't know if Dano is still in here. What a chamber iron is, sitting here and imagine this center hole, right, is the chamber. Well, on a 22, since it's rim fire, it's going to hit right up here and cause this kind of burr to stick down, right? Because it has sat here and hammered on this so many times that it has moved the metal, right? Then a customer is going to bring it to you and say, hey, the gun just keeps jamming. It either won't feed, right, or it won't extract right, okay? And you're all right. And you ask them, do you dry fire this weapon? 99.9999% of the time, they will sit here and look at you and say, no. And you're going to sit here and look at that chamber and say, we determine that is a lie, right? So on and so forth. And then you sit here and use the chamber iron it back out, and it'll be good to go. So yeah. All right. Anybody got anything else? Anything at all? Y'all want to know some more books that I have? Yeah, you'd be amazed on how often you would use something like a 22 iron. I've got to make another one for 17 HMR because I have worn the one out for 17. I've worn it out, plain and simple. They're not hard to make, but I've got to actually buckle down and make one, which I'll probably buckle down and make one whenever another one comes in to be done. That's usually that happens. All right, what else? Like I said, I've got more books I can cover. If y'all are interested. This is what I also just love about these Gunsmith Kink books is they have some blueprinted designs. Now, this isn't good enough for you to make a gun, but it's enough to kind of give you an idea of the inner workings of the gun. So it just kind of helps you with where things are supposed to be. And this is also why I love these books because they've got funny stuff in it. Right? So look at the gun. I'll read it to you. Right? Got a clothesline, some C clamps on there, wood chisels, hole all in it, spring sticking out of nowhere. And it sits here and goes, "Boy, who'd ever guess I did it by myself?" I've had that. I've had that come in my shop. So, yeah. But good things about these books is one, you don't need internet, right? You don't need electricity besides being able to read it. Okay? But they have, just sitting here talking about bluing earlier, they have a whole section in this one that's just polishing, right? So very dry, right? But then it'll actually sit here and give you pictures. So like we've got a 1911 slide, we've got, what is that? More 1911 slides, right? But in here as well, it's got revolvers, excuse me, that kind of thing. It will cover checkering, right? That kind of thing. Now, does this one book give you enough information to where you feel like, hey, I can actually do this? In my opinion, no. Right? Does it give you enough information to see if you would even want to attempt it? Yes. Yes. All right. All right. Well, I'm going to give it a few more minutes to see if y'all have any other questions or stuff you want me to talk about, anything like that. Once again, tools, gun questions, company questions, um, pretty much anything with the firearms industry. Just ask away. Hey, thank you, Ray. And I understand how it is by being busy in the shop. I honestly took, what was it, yesterday off because I'd been working 12 plus hours and this is our off season. Um, just trying to catch up on a bunch of stuff for turkey hunters and that kind of thing. Because the ones who actually brought their guns to me, last month, I could actually get done. But yeah, I took a day. There's no other way of putting it. I took a day. And hey, don't ever be sorry about being late. At least you got here, right? So yeah. Not a problem there, Dano. See, you should have never told me that. I'm going to remember that now. Like I said, if y'all have any other stuff, let me know. You can email me. My email is earlier in the chat log. Um, and like I said, I'll try to help you out the best I can. I'm not an expert, but I know my stuff. Is what I'm getting at. You have been slammed since New Year's, Roy, or excuse me, Ray. Damn, my eyes are getting bad. So we get slammed a lot, and it's oftentimes in different ways. So, like for me, starting in about late October, I'll start getting deer hunters, right? Just slamming me when hunting season opens up the weekend before Thanksgiving every single year, right? And during the entire season, I will be slammed until January 1st, right? January 1st will hit, and then I can start catching up on other other stuff that's not, like doing some checkering, doing, to where that's a lot of work, but I'm not slammed with work. And then usually by the last week of January through February, I get turkey hunters because turkey season starts next week, right? It either started today or it starts Wednesday. I can't remember. Um, and yeah, I'll be tied up with turkey hunters because I guarantee, because this happens every single year, next week or the week after it opens, I'll put it that way, I'm going to be slammed with people like, huh, well, this shotgun, I've been using it for 20 years and they never had a problem. I had the world's record turkey in front of me, right? Thing looked like it was on steroids. It was bigger than my Great Dane, right? And I went and squeezed the trigger, and all it did was go click, no bang. I missed out on a chance of a lifetime because of this here gun. I need to get it fixed so I can get back in the turkey woods here in a minute. Yeah, everybody sees monster turkeys when their gun jams. That's the way it goes. I'll deal with them for a while, and then after turkey season ends, which is the end of April around here, so May, June, July is when I really crank up the bluing tanks, and I do bluing. I will have those tanks running 1 or 2 days a week, right, doing bluing jobs because I have a lot of gunsmith shops. Well, I wouldn't say a lot. I've got a few gunsmith shops just across the country that, once again, can't do bluing for whatever reason. And so they send it out to me and have me do everything. Also, during that time is when I get a lot of my Cerakote in. So, yeah, like one bluing that I've got is an older model Remington 870 Wingmaster, right? Customer wants it blued. I'll probably have close to a day just getting all the rust and corrosion and that kind of stuff and polishing that metal before I even blue it, right? So there's that. And then I've got to add Cerakote in on top of it. So the way that I put it is I'm slammed all the time. It's just to the extent of sometimes I'll just take a day because you need a day sometimes for yourself, right? Me and my wife usually only take 2 vacations a year. But when I decide that I'm taking a day, I tell the wife, and because that only happens once or twice a year, but she very much leaves me alone. I'm down here in the shop. She's got my daughter, or our daughter, I should say, and yeah, I'm pretty much left alone. I'll sit here and watch something on TV. I'll do some social media stuff. I'll do whatever, but I'm not sitting here working on guns. You see what I'm saying? So I do that from time to time. But do we have anything else? Anything at all? Anything at all? All right. Well, if y'all don't have anything else, I'm gonna wait about another minute. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off here because I've only got 3 people watching. Don't know who the third person is because I'm figuring it's still Dan and Ray. So yeah. A brown bass, like an original, like a reproduction. It doesn't matter. It's cool as hell. It's just is if it is original, there's a different way of going about fixing it, right? But those things are fun. Um, I might have played around with a few because I've got a friend of mine that does a lot of that era reenacting, and yeah, I've gotten to play with one. It's a lot of fun. Not as fun as the shoulder mortar because that's terrifying, but in a good way, right? But yeah, yeah. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Like I said, if any of you have any questions or need some help, um, Ray, if you need help with that, email me, right? Plain and simple. I can definitely help with that. And I've got some books on the subject, right? And can try to help you out with that. I will try my best. It's supposed to rain more today. We were supposed to work on some fence tomorrow, building a new field essentially to fence in for some goats and donkeys, but it's raining. Dear Jesus. I'm about tired of the rain. I'm about to the level of, the north being tired of snow because my yard is a soppy mess and I've got to try to get into the field so I can bush hog to put up the electric fence. and it is so wet right now. It's not yeah, it's not possible. But yeah, seriously, if you need some help on that, Brown Bess, please reach out to me. Please, 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 because I will be more than happy to help with that. Um, yeah, those are fun because I think I've still got the book of the English Maker Mark somewhere. I'd have to find it. I have enough books that I can legally open a library. Bad part is none of it's organized. Just kind of stacked here, there, and yonder. But anyways, y'all have fun. Y'all be safe. And yeah, till next time. Y'all have a good one, okay? End.